I'm your speaker and I'll be walking you through what we do at TestSigma. But before we move on to that, thank you so much, 𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. We look forward to the partnership that we are embarking on with you. And let me go ahead, share my screen and explain everyone what we actually believe in and what we're trying to do here at TestSigma, right? All right, lovely. So I believe you can see my screen and we're just gonna move next, right? So in today's session, what we're going to focus on covering is I would like to give you all an understanding of what we do at TestSigma, who we are, and then focus on a couple of key pointers. Our recent release that we have, it's a capability that's going to help and change how we look at testing, especially from the low-code perspective, right? And post that, we leave the floor open for any Q&A. This demonstration should roughly go for around 25 to 30 minutes. We can keep this interactive. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and share it in the chat. We've got our TestSigma team, we've got 𝗕𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and Shri as well, who will go ahead and help me take this up. And apart from that, 𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is with us as well, right? So moving forward, right? Now here at TestSigma, what we believe in is empowering the QA experts, be it your automation testers or if you have manual testers in the team. Our goal is to help them create test cases at a faster rate, help them reduce the testing effort by leveraging simple English-like statements, and to cut short your deployment cycles as well. So it is an AI-powered, low-code SaaS-based test automation platform. And the idea is to just use simple English scripts to make your life easy, right? So just a little bit context about how we've been doing and where we've started and incubated from. Now we are headquartered in San Francisco, and it's been about 5 years since, approximately 5 years since we've been actively in the testing arena. And we also have 2 offices in India, which is in Bangalore and Chennai. So today I'm talking to you from Bengaluru. The numbers that are mentioned on the screen keep increasing every day, but we could roughly say that we've got around 25 million tests executed on TestSigma platform as of today. And our family is growing drastically. And as I talk to you today, we're around 250 plus employees globally. And we're backed by organizations such as MassMutual and Axel. Like you can notice, we are on the top in the Gartner, and also we have a lot of security certifications in place. This is just to, sort of give you an overall idea of who we are and what we've been doing, right? Now, the key idea and the challenges that we sort of address at TestSigma is, let's say you have been struggling with, improving your test coverage. There are challenges in maintaining your test cases or authoring them per se, like building the regression test suites, managing all of that, handling very dynamic applications like, let's say, Salesforce, or critical scenarios like your Windows application testing scenarios. So at TestSigma, we focus on bringing all these siloed processes that you might have as of today in your testing framework and bring it all down under one pane of view. And everything is done in simple English. So the process that you see across whatever I'd be demonstrating today, be it your web application testing scenario or mobile application or desktop application, we have a simple low-code approach wherein we support you throughout the testing life cycle that you see, right? So from your authoring the test case to maintaining them, changing it, we have auto healing and self-healing capabilities, visual testing capabilities built into the platform, right? You can also enable review management system and things like that, so that you can cross-collaborate with your team and reuse the effort that you have already put in for maybe certain releases. And also you can execute your test scripts within the platform itself. So you do not have to connect to an additional device farm to sort of execute your test cases. So you have one single place where you do all of it. So we believe in having a unified platform, and we are working towards this as of today, right? Now, I'm sure a lot of questions will be around what sort of industries and verticals we actually support and work across, right? Now, we are a vertical agnostic organization. We've worked with clients and customers, enterprise level accounts, which are actually globally renowned in different variety of verticals. It could be healthcare, finance, banking, anything that you can think of. We worked with all of them, right? So this is just to sort of give you an overall idea of what kind of organizations we've been working with, and there are a lot of case studies that are also available on our website, which you can go through to understand how we've helped these teams tackle various QA related challenges that they were encountering. So just moving on to the TestSigma Copilot section, right? Now this is our GenAI powered testing assistant, you can say, and this is going to be a game changer, be it for your manual testing teams or for the professionals who are already familiar with building test scripts and having extensively working with regression test plans and things like that. So the Copilot is capable of not only suggesting test case scenarios, and this is something I will also demonstrate in the demo today. It not only helps with generating the test case scenarios, it also improves your coverage when you look at it. It also gives you suggestions and adds verifications and validations where it feels it is actually necessary, right? And apart from that, there are other GenAI capabilities as well. So we are trying to holistically look at GenAI being able to help your QA teams, speeden up the process. So it could be any sort of input that you can provide, and then Gen AI would work on the inputs that you provide to go ahead and create your test cases. So it could be from user stories that you probably have in your Jira instance, or you probably just have your wireframes, which are in an image-based format. It might be generated maybe using Figma, Photoshop, anything that your organization is using as of today. It could be Adobe as well, right? So you go ahead, provide the context of these images, and then TestSigma is going to generate the test scripts for you just from those images, right? Now, apart from images, what other context can we give? So let's say you've already created a couple of test case scenarios. Now, TestSigma Gen AI capabilities are capable of using those existing test cases to also suggest some additional test case scenarios that you've probably missed. So this is how we're trying to cover every aspect of it, right? So we've also got something in place for your, let's say you want to do API testing, but you do not want to put in the effort of creating the API test cases. You can use TestSigma's Gen AI capabilities to build those API test steps automatically with just a couple of clicks of button, right? So I'm just going to take a brief pause and dive into the product demonstration. So let me switch to TestSigma. So like I was mentioning, we are a technology agnostic testing platform. You could have your web, mobile, API, Salesforce, desktop application testing scenarios, and you can test all of them with TestSigma. Now, another key aspect to remember is that we are a SaaS-based platform. We have multiple deployment options available. So if anybody is interested to explore an on-prem deployment or a private cloud sort of a setup, that is also flexible and possible with TestSigma. And you can create multiple projects in your account and specify what kind of application you would like to test. So we support even database testing. Right, this is something that is not mentioned here, but we do support database testing as well. And the idea is you do not have to configure an environment or sort of build a structure or framework. You directly log into your account and then you can start creating your test cases, right? So I'm in an existing project today, and what we're going to do is I have a web application with me. So I just want to let me hide tab here. I'm just going to stop sharing and reshare. A second. All right. So you can also go ahead and create test cases in TestSigma, right? So I'm going to use the Naukri application that you can see here. I'm just going to minimize this. Yeah. So this is just a web application that I've picked up for the demonstration. You can use any web application, right? The only requirement that we have for creating test cases for your web application scenarios is providing the URL of the application, right? Now I'm in an existing project, but what we're going to do is we'll create a new test case. You can always go ahead and create multiple features, scenarios. So this is like a file folder organization section. You can organize your test cases depending on maybe certain features or capabilities that you're testing. So let me just go ahead and click on new test case, and I'm just going to give this a name, right? And I'm going to click on create. So this is it, right? So this is how simple it is to go ahead and create a test case in TestSigma. Now, once you've done that, you can go ahead and provide the URL of the application that you would like to test. So this is the Microsoft Teams URL. We'll just copy the 𝗕𝗿𝗀𝗃𝗃 URL here and just go ahead and paste this over here. So the idea with TestSigma is that all your test steps in the script that you'll be creating will be in the simple English format. So you can see navigate to test data. So we've just provided context as to which application we would like to automate or create test cases for. Now, if you want to have a look at what are the different sentences or simple English based scripts that you can incorporate within a test case, you can always come down to the help section, and under the action list, you will find like an inbuilt documentation within the platform where you can see it explains what this particular statement is going to do and how you can go ahead and incorporate this as well. So what information needs to be provided to it. So let's say you want to use any of these NLPs that we call at TestSigma. So this is natural language programming based statements, right? So we just click on the plus icon and the step will get added for us. Now you can always go ahead and clear a step, cancel, edit, change all of the information, clone a particular step, all that can be done. Now, the key game changer, I would say, is going ahead and leveraging the TestSigma web recorder. So this is actually a browser extension. You will be prompted to install this for the first time when you log into TestSigma. And post that, you can directly click on record to author your test case. So this recorder is actually capable. It's a smart recorder, which is capable of triggering self-healing capabilities. It also has the Gen AI Copilot built into it. Right? So I've just clicked on record. Now what it's going to do is it'll open the application URL in a new window, and we also have our recorder intact. Right? So if you want to create your test steps in TestSigma, all you have to do is just go ahead, enter the data or perform the click actions in the application, and it will start creating the test step for you. So let's say I go ahead and say 𝗕𝗃𝗃 is the full name, right? It will create these test steps for me automatically, right? So I can say email, test email @gmail.com. And you will notice that the test steps are getting created for me automatically. Now, in a similar fashion, you can go ahead and incorporate multiple test steps and any complex scenario, be it interacting with your certain elements, all of that can be done using the same process. Now, you do not have to hard code the data like I've done here. You can go ahead and let's say you have multiple users credentials. You might have negative testing scenarios in different scenarios, different credentials with which you would like to test. Maybe the password varies from each test case, right? So you can use the same script that you've built to run it across different data sets as well. So if you have this information already in maybe an Excel sheet, in a database, or you have it in an API, you can go ahead, store that value, and then you can use the test script to run it multiple times using the same test case but different sets of data, right? So you can go ahead and do that. You can also use random data generators in a test case, and I will show you how we incorporate that at a later given point of time. But the idea with random data generators is that it will automatically create test data at runtime for you and go ahead and pass that into any of the test steps. right? So you don't have to go ahead and manually create the data set. You can also incorporate complex logics or realize complex logics by using conditional statements or adding looping statements into the test script in the low code approach itself. So you can just select if you want to go ahead and add an if else block, or if you want to have a nested scenario, or you want to incorporate for loops, while loops, any of this, you can go ahead, just select it and add that into your test case. But before, this process is really fast, robust. You can create test cases in, a couple of minutes. But what happens is we've also brought in the TestSigma Copilot so that this effort reduces even further. So as soon as I click on generate test cases, the Copilot is going to give me a couple of suggestions of what could be the probable test case scenarios to go ahead and test. Now, this not only improves your coverage, right? So let's say I click on register with valid credentials. It's going to give me the test case for this, but I can also click on show more and ask it to generate a couple of other scenarios, right? So you can see it has incorporated the test case with the existing value that I had provided. Now I can additionally also say that go ahead and also, you can also give prompts to it. So let's say in the above test case, so you can also incorporate and ask it to add a couple of other things that maybe you feel you want to incorporate in this particular test case itself. So you can see that it will immediately create that for you. You can also ask it to update data. So I can also say in the above test case, you can change the wordings. That will not matter, right? So the way you speak, the way, if you would like to give a more detailed prompt, you can go ahead and do that. And it will then go ahead and the Genie is going to go ahead, modify this data and give it to us. So all you have to do is select the test steps that you would like to incorporate. You can also select just a subset of them if you want to go ahead and add them, or you can choose to add all of these test steps together into the script that you're building out, right? And you can add multiple of them. So once this is added, I can also go back and ask it to generate the test steps for another scenario, and I can incorporate that within the same very test case, right? So this is how the Copilot works. In any complex scenarios, its suggestions are going to go ahead and cover as many scenarios that you can. It will also suggest the negative testing scenarios to you, right? So here you can see, as soon as we have created the test case, it is also prompting us to convert this into data driven. So now we have one set of test data, but let's say I want Gen AI to go ahead and give me data suggestions of what could be the other test case scenarios, what are the other test data we can have. You just click on the generate data, and you can see that it generates all of the test data for you for the test case. You can also ask it to modify certain data. So let's say modify the password data to include special character. I can say one special character, right? And I'll just click on the send. So you are also interacting and giving it more suggestion for it to create more relevant test data for you. So if you go ahead and say that, modify it such that it is a 7-letter string with so and so information in it, ideally, you can provide all of that constraints and it will update the data profile for you accordingly, right? So you can see we've created the data. Now I can click on create and replace, and it is automatically going to map the data into the test case. So here you can see all of the data gets mapped, and all I have to do is just select the data profile that it created, and you can go ahead and also make this test case data driven. So you can choose if you want to iterate it over all the 5 sets of data that it created, or do you want to run it only on like a singular set, or you want to filter it on the basis of set parameters or filters that it should contain so and so information so that it can execute on that particular data set. Now you can also incorporate API test steps within this flow, right? So if you want to go ahead and add an API test step, you can just come down here, click on REST API, include an endpoint of your choice, and then go ahead and create this test case. But apart from that, if you want a dedicated API testing script that you want to create, you can also do that. So you can see here, I've created a dedicated API test script. You can add your endpoint. And so if for the API testing piece as well, we have a low code approach. So let's say I've hit on the get, right? And if I want to store any of the values here in the API tester, or I want to go ahead and perform some validations and verifications, I can just come down to the outline mode and hover on any of the key value pairs. And once I hover, I'll be able to add this test step into TestSigma automatically. So if you can see, there's an option to store the variable and there's an option to add verification. So if I click on store variable, right, the value gets automatically stored here. So this is the one that we just created, which is for first name. I can go ahead and rename this as first name. And if I similarly, if I want to add some verification, maybe for this particular email, I just click on verify, right? Add a verification, and you can see that the verification gets added. You can change the verification type again to have regular expression or contains based matches. And similarly, you can also use this for post, put, patch, delete, add in headers, authorization tokens. If you would like to configure, you can go ahead and do that. Right, and then you can click on update. For now, I'm just going to cancel this, right? And what I want to show to you is how the execution results are going to look like, right? So this is for different application, but the idea is within TestSigma, you can also execute your test cases directly. So we have our in-house TestSigma Cloud Farm. This is a device lab that we have. And in this device lab, we have around 3,000 plus real mobile devices and 800 plus browser OS combination. So these browser OS combination and real mobile devices are available in a plug and play approach. So if you're in a mobile application testing scenario, these options will be automatically updated to your mobile versions and models that you can go ahead and select, and it will be allocated for that particular session and then wiped off post the execution. But you can also choose to have your local executions in case you want to have a look at the execution live on your testing machine. You can also do that. So you just have to download an agent. And once you do that, you can go ahead and trigger these executions on your local machine as well. Now, once you go ahead and execute, you can click on run now. It will show you the results of the execution. So you can see we have multiple results here, right? So if I go ahead and click on the results, you can also go back and look at my older results, right? So this is like a ad hoc execution that we have done, which is like a singular execution. Now, what you can correlate this to is, let's say you want to build some unit test cases or singular modular blocks of test cases. You can go ahead and do that. And once you do that, you can add these into regression suits, or you can also group these test steps into step groups, which can be called in other test cases. And this reusability, basically you can reuse the same test steps that you've created across various test cases that you're creating. So let's say you have a login scenario which needs to happen in multiple flows. You can go ahead and just build that flow once and then call the same set of steps again and again in different scenarios. So here you'll notice that in the results section, you will have access to the screenshots of the complete test case scenario, whatever actions we've performed, right? So this is for another application that we've taken up, which is the Simply Travel, right? So this is another demo application that we've got. And you will also have access to the complete video recording of the execution. So this will help even your manual or automation testers to figure out where exactly the test case failed or what was buggy, right? Now, in case this is not helpful for the team and they want to have a look at the logs, they can also go ahead and have a look at the logs which are available at TestSigma. So you can go ahead and use them or use the screenshots as well to have a look at the complete execution. and understand where things went wrong, right? So if any particular test step fails again, you will be prompted saying that the test step has failed, and it will also inform you why exactly the test step failed. So similar to the success message that you see here, you will see a failure message as well. Now, the idea with TestSigma is that let's say the DOM or your application changes, right? So we have a V2 of the application as well. Um, Now here you'll notice that the UI has changed a lot, the DOM has changed a lot. What we can also do is I have not changed any of the locator information or anything, any of these test steps. I have simply changed the URL of the application, and I have also enabled visual testing. So if you notice, you can go ahead and with the click of a button, enable visual testing. Now what kind of visual testing are we referring to over here is we do a pixel to pixel comparison of the test case execution or the screenshots of the application, which indirectly translates into comparing if there are any visual differences in versions of your application. Or let's say it is your production and staging application. If you just want to validate what are the UI changes, you can go ahead, change the URL, or you can also create different environments and switch between these environments. And once you do that, it will also show you where exactly in which pixels are these changes being reflected, and then you can decide if these are desired changes or this shouldn't have looked this way, right? So if I click on view details, you will notice that the test case is still executed, right? So we were on version 2, we've switched to version 2, and you'll notice that it says there are visual differences in certain sections. And if I select on any of these steps, some of these elements will be auto-healed, right? Because the locator information actually changed, but the test script still passed. So this is how the self-healing capability comes into the picture. So for your low maintenance scenarios, this is going to be very helpful, because if there is any changes in the element, there are or any additional sections are incorporated, then you can go ahead and it will automatically prompt you, and you don't have to keep editing your test scripts or re-recording or recapturing the element information, right? Now, when it comes to visual differences, how is it going to communicate to you that there are certain visual differences that it has observed, right? So if you click on any of the screenshots and switch to visual differences, now this will show up only once we have two executions, one wherein we have executed the base execution, which is the primary execution, which is considered as the reference execution per se, against the current execution that you're doing. So firstly, initially we had executed with version 1 of the application, and then we moved to version 2. So you'll notice that it is highlighting every pixel that has undergone certain visual changes. And if you want to have a look at all the differences, just click on highlight differences and it's going to map all of this for you. Let's say you want to ignore a certain section, because if you notice, I can probably zoom in a little for everyone here. So if you notice the login and sign up, right? So I can also come out of the hide the visual differences. So this simply travel logo and your login and sign up section, they are the same buttons, but what's happening is underneath it, there is a layer wherein the colors are changing drastically, right? So there's a dark blue here and there's a light blue, which is why it still considers it as a section where there are visual differences. So it's going to capture very minute changes as well. And let's say you want to ignore this certain section, you can also select that section and say that you would like to ignore it for all of the test steps, henceforth all the executions as well, and then just click on save. Now, let's say your application UI changes completely in the upcoming days and you would like to have a new image as the base image. You can also mark any image, the existing or the current execution, as the base image. So henceforth, what would happen is the second version would be considered as the main UI version. And then anything that you test against this, it will prompt and inform you accordingly. So just giving you a little more context here, right? So you can have different kind of data incorporated. You can also include what we have in TestSigma is smart methods to fetch your OTP or any sort of activation URLs that come into maybe your Gmail account or a phone number, right? So we have pre-built automation mailboxes and phone numbers in TestSigma, where let's say a email or an email comes into this particular mailbox or in the phone number section. So I've not added a phone number here, but if you get an SMS into the number and you want to use that SMS data, it could be OTP, certain text from it, to fetch it and then pass it into your test case. We have smart methods in place that can go ahead and do that as well. So we have like pre-built functions here. You can notice that if I just switch to mailbox functions, we have pre-built functions to get, OTP, some content from it. All of this can be fetched directly and used in your low code, no code approach itself within the test cases. Right. So there are endless possibilities with a lot of capabilities that we're looking at here. But the idea is once you've created all of these test cases, test scripts that you're building, there could be n number of them. You obviously need to build regression suits, schedule them, and then run it maybe overnight or based on the testing frequency that you have. So what you can do is you can create a test suite where you just specify what are the test cases you would like to add into this particular suite. So this is like bundling your test cases based on features and capabilities, just to organize and create better test plans. Now, once you've done that, you can go ahead and also create a test plan. Now here we'd be specifying what kind of machines we want to go ahead and test on. So be it your cross-browser testing, or if you want to do end-to-end testing wherein you have flows across web, mobile, desktop, Salesforce, and you want to go back and forth, maybe client and admin testing scenarios or anything of that sort, you can go ahead and create a test plan where you specify all of this information, right? So you can see I have specified the name of the test plan and I've selected cross-browser testing because this is just a web application project that I've created here. And I have specified multiple machines, right? So it could be default machines that we have. You can choose from them. You can see that you can also choose to run the test cases in parallel. This will save a lot of the execution time that you usually encounter and speeden up the process that you have as of today, right? So you can add multiple machines and you'll notice that the same scripts that we've created can be executed on all of these machines. So there's one with Firefox, one with Safari, one with Windows and Chrome combination. And then you can also choose if you want to get notified, be it via email or, it could be your chat integrations as well. So if you're using, let's say, Google Chat, MS Team, any of these, you can go ahead and configure that so that it notifies to you the results of this particular regression execution or the test plan execution. Now, you also can go ahead and enable accessibility testing. So what happens is it's going to go ahead and see if your application adheres to the guidelines that are as per the accessibility testing guidelines, right? So you can go ahead, configure all of this. And once you do that, you'll also be able to integrate with CI/CD tools in case you're using anything like GitHub, Bitbucket, apart from the ones that I mentioned here. You can also go ahead, integrate with any CI/CD tool. And if you do not have that set up as of today, you can still go ahead and schedule your execution with the TestSigma scheduler itself. Right, so here you can specify the frequency of execution, the date of the first trigger, all of that. And then once you schedule it, it will run on the specified date and time. But you can also manually trigger this execution. And let's say you want to have a look at the reports, you can also have a look at the reports. Right. So if you have multiple executions, this is how it's going to show you. You can always switch between previous executions and have a look at what were the differences and what was the execution result. So it will show you information on the basis of the case, the suit, the machine that you've configured, give you some overall insights as well. And if you've enabled accessibility testing, it will also show you that information here itself. So you can see view the accessibility testing report. It'll show you all of the information as per the WCAG 2.1 AA standard as of today. And based on these results, you can sort of analyze and understand where things need to be changed in your application as of today, right? So if you want to have a look at the details about a particular test case, you can also dive into that and then go ahead and let's say you want to have a look at the screenshot of a particular section, you can do that. You can come to the screenshot gallery of sorts where you can select and move across the test steps and understand where what action was performed. But if you want to raise a bug or keep a track of create tickets for the bug and then loop in your development team or other stakeholders as to what went wrong, right? You can also integrate with different bug tracking tools. So I have created a default integration with Jira, but if you have any other bug tracking tools like maybe monday.com or anything, you can go ahead and integrate with it so that it automatically, it shows you all the projects, the issues that you have, and let's say you have a priority, you can go ahead and pick all of this, but it will map the description past the URL of the test case along with the video of the execution and why the test step actually failed. And then all you have to do is click on create ticket and it will create a ticket in your Jira instance directly. It could be any bug tracking instance per se. So when it comes to the integrations, we support a lot of integrations, be it your X-Ray, Jira, money.com, and the end goes on and on, right? So it could be for your test lab, for collaboration, product management, and even CI/CD, right? Now, another key thing to I'd like to highlight here is that you can go ahead and also customize the NLPs that we were seeing. So let's say you want to go ahead and create, there's a certain use case that you have wherein there is some sort of a navigation in your application and you want to cater to that. You can go ahead and also build add-ons in TestSigma. And this is something our team as well contributes to if you can go ahead and provide the requirements. So let's say there's some custom scenario that you want to go ahead and cater to, we can do that as well. I believe I'm just going to take 3 more minutes so that I can show you a couple of Gen AI capabilities that we have in place. Now, apart from the Copilot that I went ahead and showed you, you can also generate test cases from your user stories. So in case you have some user stories already created, you can go ahead, search for the user story, select the scenarios of test cases that you've specified, and TestSigma will automatically generate the manual test steps for you and also the TestSigma generated test steps. So you can see that there are manual test steps that are generated, and it will also generate the TestSigma NLPs, which again, you can customize over here. So if I say change the from location to, let's say, Delhi, and just click on generate, it will go ahead and generate the test steps for us again and update all of that information. And if you want to go ahead and use these test steps, we can do that directly, right? Now, this is one way if you have some feedback from Jira, but let's say you just have Figma designs, you can also do that. So you can upload the screenshots, right, of the design. So it could be some screenshot. So let's say, I go with, so I have 2-3 screenshots here. Let's say we go with this itself. You can choose to provide additional HTML context if that is something that is available with you, which is maybe a partially built application code, and then just say generate test cases, right? Now you can provide multiple screenshots as well. For now, I'm just going ahead with one, and then I'll click on generate. And it will generate the test steps that you could probably have along with the scenarios as well. So you can see it suggests multiple scenarios, user registration with Google account, password complexity, and n number of things, right? Privacy policy, link verification. So if I go ahead and maybe, we can probably go with the first one. Now, again, it's going to go ahead and generate the test steps for us. So the idea is no matter what kind of data you have as of today, you can generate test cases from it. And this capability of having, using your Figma designs or, your UI UX directly to generate test cases is going to help you in case you are moving to, let's say, a left shift approach, right? Wherein you want to start creating test cases from day one, you want to approach and improve test coverage, you can go ahead and do that. Now, we have a lot of other Gen AI capabilities that have been cooking up, wherein, let's say, I provide some context, I provide a couple of test cases that I've created, and then go ahead and ask TestSigma to just directly generate the test cases for this. So I can say other test scenarios. Now, what this does is it's going to help us improve the test coverage overall, give us suggestions of what we have not included in these particular test cases. So these are interrelated test cases, and you will notice that it is giving suggestions on sign up with invalid email address, weak password, missing existing number, mismatched password, different travel preferences, and things like that, right? So now if I want to have a look at what are the test steps that it's going to generate, I just click on that icon and it's going to kick in and then say, okay, these are the test steps that you could probably have. And then you can go ahead and build on top of these test steps that it's creating and suggesting. So you can also additionally provide more screenshots, give it user stories, or give it additional context. It could be in HTML or some text, and it will go ahead and improve its accuracy on the basis of what context you're providing to it. In a very similar fashion, let's say you want to go ahead and create your test cases from a Swagger schema file. You can also go ahead, select your Swagger file. So let's say I should have one in downloads here. I'm just gonna pick that up and click on open. And if I go ahead and click on generate, it's going to start generating the files that, the test cases that we could probably have for this particular JSON that we have. And if you want to go ahead and incorporate these test steps, you can just select them and then get them added into a particular test case. Right, so you can see that this has been created for us. If you want to give it additional context, you can do that. You can also have a look at what it has actually done, right? It will add status verifications, body verifications, all of this information. Now, this is the first version that we have. We are also coming up with a version 2 of the API testing, and this will be out this week, where it is a little more improvised, and we have some more things cooking up, which is actually really interesting. And I'm sure that is something that's going to help organizations a lot, right? So with this, I'll also quickly show you one more thing, and I'll leave the floor open for questions. Let's say you have just the URL of the application as context, and you want to go ahead and create some manual test scenarios. You can also go ahead and provide the URL of the application and click on Start Recording. So it opens a window and it'll prompt an option for you to record your screen. You can provide entire access. And then let's say we perform certain actions and we are going ahead and creating a test case. So we're just going to manually go ahead and do a couple of things. Right? And let me just stop this. So it's just very few steps that we captured, right? But even if there are extensively long flows across various pages of the application, that's the ideal scenario that we want to go for here. It will capture the video temporarily, and it will also generate the test steps that you could probably have for all of the test case scenarios that you can have. So if the recording is a little longer, it's going to give you more suggestions as well, right? So with this, I know it's a lot of information that, I've sort of cascaded to you. I stopped presenting and I'd like to leave the floor open for any questions that you all have, anything you've been curious about. You can drop them in the chat, or you can also, raise your hand and unmute yourself and then go ahead and ask me.
Any questions? It's a bit silent. There's a question from Bram. Bram, you can just ask it yourself.
Yeah. Yes, hello. Thank you for your presentation. When you opened the screen with integrations, yeah, with
Right.
Jenkins and such, I didn't see GitHub there. But I was wondering, is it possible that when you push your code to GitHub or you merge a branch, that you automatically start a test run to see if the changes are valid?
Yes,
Is that
yes,
a
we can do
possibility?
that. Yes, we can do that. So you can integrate with GitHub, GitLab, anything that any CI/CD tool out there that is used, right? It could be Azure DevOps, all of them. You can integrate with them.
Okay, thank you. Is it
Welcome.
then also possible to, let's say you make a code change, you put open a
Mhm.
pull request to
Yeah.
block the pull request as long as the tests are failing in TestSigma?
So we can set up webhooks in TestSigma, and you can also configure reruns or terminate test case execution. So all of those settings can be done at a test plan level itself, and we can handle such scenarios as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Leaves me to thank you very much, Ridika. It was a good demo.